In this lecture, we are going to be creating the tables that we'll be needing for the project that we're developing. So I'm going to open my database. That will be db.local. And then I already created a database here called links. So I'm going to be using this. So for now, we can still leave the users table here. We are going to just add few more columns later. So the first thing I want to do is to create a new table called channels. Then there will be 6 columns. So channels is going to be like our categories table. So this will be like a table that's going to store all of the different categories for links that can be submitted. So let's set this to 11, then auto increment. Then the next one will be name. Then the next one will be slug. Then the next one will be the status if it has been archived. Then the next one will be created at. Then the last one will be updated at. So these ones will be timestamp. This will be timestamp. Set this to null by default. Then archive, we can set this to tiny int, a value of 1, and then default should be 0. So when it is 0, it means that the specific channel is still available for viewing. It has not been archived. But if we set this to 1, it means that the channel has now been archived. It can no longer be viewed on the site. So we'll get to the logic later, but for now, let's just set up our database. Slug will be voucher. Then we can make this 255. Names voucher. We can make this 25, or let's just make this 50. And then let's set the name to be unique. So unique, and then say channel underscore name underscore IDX. So that will be the index name. Okay, so that will be all for this table. Let's click on create. And then what I'm going to do now is to copy this table to create a new one. So that one is going to be sub channels. So we're going to copy it to sub underscore channels. Sub underscore channels. Then click on go. And then for sub channels, I'm going to add one more columns. So the column should be immediately after the ID. This should be channel ID. So this is going to be like the foreign key that identifies which channel the sub channel belongs to. So then we can click on, we set the attribute to unsigned and then click on save. The next table that we want to create will be the tutorials table. So I'm going to click on new. Then call this table tutorials. Our tutorials table is going to have about 12 columns. So I just ended up adding more 12. Okay, so let's call this ID. Then this is going to be the primary key. Auto increment. Set this to 11. Then next we're going to set the title. Set this to 70. Let's make this unique. So let's say tutorial underscore title. This will be the index. And just in case you don't know, index makes our query perform faster. So if we have an index on a specific column, it means that it will be able to retrieve information from that column faster than it will retrieve the information if there were to be no index. So indexes are a great way for us to improve the performance of our queries. Then the next one is going to be a description. Let's set this to test. And then the next one is going to be the ID of the user creating or submitting this specific tutorial link. So this should be 11 and then it should be unsigned. Then the next one will be the channel ID. So let's say channel ID should be 11. Should also be unsigned. Then the next one should be the sub channel ID. Sub channel underscore ID 11 unsigned So all these are going to be used for relationship later, as we see in the course. This will be used to identify the users that own the submitted link. This will be used to identify the channel that the link belongs to, and then this is going to be for the sub channel. We also want to be able to archive a specific link. So set this to tinyInt, this 1, 0 by default. And then we also want to have a flag here. So has it been approved? For this, we can use 0 or 1, just as we are doing here, or we can just make it an enum feed where we have different status. It has been approved, it was not approved, or something else. So let's keep it simple. Let's use the tinyInt. Set this to 0. So by default, a specific link that has been submitted will not be approved. So it will require the admin user to actually approve it before it can be visible to other users. And then we can then add the other feed, created at, and then updated at. Set this to timestamp, and then set this to timestamp. So I always like to just check nullable for this. Right, let's go through all of this. So all the other feeds are required. And then we can now actually click on save. So the last thing we want to do here inside of phpMyAdmin is to update the users table. So we want to change the structure. Right now we have ID, we have username, we have email, we have avatar, we have activated, created at, and updated at. So we want to add a few more feeds. So let's say we want to add 3 more. So I want to add after email. So let's come here. So the first one should be password feed, should be voucher, and we should set this to 255. And then the next one will be role. We can use enum for this. So let's look for enum. And then right here we can specify the valid value. So first one will be member, second one will be admin. If you want to add other roles like moderator, you can actually add them here. So I'm going to leave it like this for now. So we have member and then we have admin. We can set a default value. So let's set it to member. And then finally, the last column that we want to add will be for activation code. So when the user creates the account, we are going to send them an activation code, which they need to actually activate their account. We can set this to 255. And then we also need to set this to nullable. Then we can now click on save. So every other thing will be required. Let's look at the structure again. We have ID, username, email, password, role, activation code, avatar, activated. So that will be 10 in total. That will be all we want to do here for now. The next thing that we want to do now is to update our .env file with our database information for the new project. So I'm going to come over to my test editor. So this is the previous project that we were using. So I'm going to just grab this. And then now I'm going to open my new project. So open directory. The new project is actually link share. So instead of htdocs, I'm going to look for link share. Then right here inside of .env, I'm going to replace all of this. Okay, so we're still using the same database links. Then the username is root and then the password is just blank. So we now want to set the name of the project to link share. And then we also want to set our template to Blade. Then right now we can now get rid of the twig files that we will not be needing. So let's delete this. Then inside of layout, let's delete this. Let's delete this. So we're going to be using Blade, so need to get rid of all of that for this specific project. So let's come inside of here, inside of controller, index controller. And then now let's try to do a reload on the browser, see if everything still works correctly. And that will be all for this lecture.